Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Let me just check. I'm going through Sarah's mic. That's why I'm hearing it. Okay. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I think we are the last meeting before happy hour or dinner. So we're going to be efficient with the time, but I think this is critical and important. Thank you, Chairman Dickey. We appreciate your attendance. I believe we have Chairman Nix on the phone. Do we have any other members on the phone? No. Okay. All right. I think we can move forward with three, is my understanding. And let's be, I think, efficient with our time. We're going to go ahead and record this. So for those of you speaking, please know that you're being recorded for no other reason, but we want to make sure that the members that weren't able to make this are able to review what your comments are. The agenda. We're going to go with Dr. Osborne first from the Georgia Virtual School. Then we'll go with Mr. Jim Potvin from ERS. Then we're going to go with Matt Arthur from Professional Standards Commission. And then finally with Ms. Joy Hawkins around the Governor's Office of Student Achievement. After that, we'll have public comment. If you haven't already signed up, please do. For those of you who did submit in writing, we appreciate you doing that. And that is being reviewed by the committee at this time. So without further ado, unless I hear any objections to the agenda, I'd like to move right immediately into Dr. Osborne. I understand that he is on virtually. Is that correct? Dr. Osborne?
Hey, Chairman. Give me just a second and let me share my slides and let me do a quick audio check, make sure that you all can hear me.
Yeah, we have you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chairman, again, and Education Committee members. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you and spend some time with you today. Let's see, let me move some screens around here so I can see. Thank you for allowing me to share some information about the work of both the Department of Education and to share information about Georgia schools and their efforts during the pandemic to provide high quality educational opportunities to their students. I'm a strong advocate of all 1.7 million students, our teacher workforce, and the school leaders that work tirelessly to ensure that our schools are providing quality and viable education solutions for their students. I am new in my position. I'm the department's Chief Information Officer now, a role that I've held since August. And so I want to let you know that my team and I are already hard at work identifying the needs of our districts and then realigning our technical systems to better support them and to enable the Department of Education's capacity to rapidly respond to identified needs. I'm confident that as we work together, we can continuously improve our Georgia-owned and Georgia-grown school system that in turn enable all students the opportunities to graduate ready to learn, ready to live, and ready to lead. Our educational community was and continues to be heavily impacted by the pandemic and has been forced to alter their traditional approach to K-12 education. Seemingly overnight, the state's K-12 educational community found it necessary to shift almost totally to using digital systems as the medium to reach their students and to continue providing high quality learning opportunities. Some systems had procedures and plans in place to support the rapid shift to digital learning models, while other districts were challenged to meet the demand because of a lack of resources, lack of their teachers' familiarity towards teaching digitally, or because areas of their communities lack the necessary bandwidth and/or devices to allow their students equitable access to digital lessons. While many of the challenges continue to exist, a testament to the ingenuity of our teacher workforce, we've seen that almost all of our districts and schools have overcome many of the barriers and have identified strategies to ensure their students are equipped and enabled to learn. We still have much to do. Meanwhile, Georgia Virtual School, which is the Department of Education's supplemental virtual school, immediately responded by acquiring additional teachers, ensuring that districts seeking digital resources were more readily able to use the free resources built and maintained by the GAV staff, and by leveraging CARES funds to provide a no-cost solution for smaller rural districts that face the challenges of providing a digital learning ecosystem. The capacity of GAVs grew by more than 60% as that team worked to provide learning opportunities for students regardless of their location in the state, to over 120 courses. Many of the students taking advantage of GAV's robust advanced placement offerings. 26 AP courses are offered by GAVs, including the top 10 most requested courses that students seek. Each AP course is taught by a highly qualified instructor that's also well-versed in the executive functions of teaching and learning in a digital environment. And GAV's students succeed. In 2019, 63% of students taking the AP exam passed, a value which is 5% higher than the national average. In short, we know that if students have access to a quality teacher and an aligned curriculum, they're very capable of succeeding. In the early days of the shift to digital learning, many of the state's agencies, such as the Department of Education, the Georgia Technology Authority, the Department of Community Affairs, the Department of Administrative Services, and others, work to solve issues related to connectivity and device availability. Great strides were made to reduce cost, increase the availability of wireless connectivity, and to increase the responsiveness of the hardware supply chain to meet the demand. Thanks to the support of Governor Kemp and to Superintendent Woods, we have resources that are enabling us to work to double the amount of bandwidth that the Department of Education provides to districts, providing external antenna systems to schools to extend their school network outside school buildings. And we're working to partner with the Department of Community Affairs to provide internet access to students living in public housing areas. Within my department alone, we have a team assigned to the specific task of solving bandwidth and connectivity issues for our schools. To support our teacher workforce, many of DOE's teams restructured their work to rapidly create professional learning opportunities to help teachers. Georgia Virtual's professional learning specialists and learning engineers provided a series of courses at no cost for teachers throughout the state. As you look at the slide, you'll see that the Just-in-Time Digital Learning Days course was a valuable resource for many of our teachers. Georgia Virtual also leveraged their cadre of veteran teachers to provide course-specific webinars for teachers at local districts to help them successfully teach their specific content areas in a digital environment. Last but not least, to ensure the availability, the teaching and learning team, which is led by Dr. Caitlin Dooley, partnered with Georgia Public Broadcasting to provide digital resources and lesson plans throughout the state. Since GPB has a 98% state coverage, this partnership ensured that almost every household has access to high quality digital resources. Dr. Dooley and Associate Superintendent Justin Hill initially concentrated on providing K-5 specific resources. All of these are aligned to the Georgia Standards of Excellence. And Chairman, I'll stop there and see if there are questions specific.
Thank you, Dr. Osborne. Are there any questions from Dr.? Okay, we're good. Dr. Osborne, is that the extent of your presentation?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, real quick, and I'm fine with you submitting these in paper or in writing if you'd like, if it's more efficient, but I'd love to be able to get them by Monday for the committee. If we could get an understanding of the 120 courses, how many are owned by the state of Georgia? Or do we have a perpetual license on them? Or how is it that we license them? I'd like to get a better understanding of that ownership of intellectual property. You mentioned that there's 250 schools that took advantage of the 26 AP courses. Could you get for us a split between rural, urban, and suburban in terms of those 250 schools, please? So we get a better understanding of access. And then finally, love to find out from you, we've seen at least some tendency based on COVID with virtual schools popping up. I'll be frank, I'm trying to avoid 180 virtual schools on top of 180 physical schools, if that makes any sense. I'm a big believer in all three modalities, physical, hybrid, and virtual, but I want to make sure that we do this efficiently. So could you possibly get the committee an understanding? I know, for instance, Forsyth County, my home county, has a virtual school. How many others are like that? I know Gwinnett does. If you could give us an understanding of that, we sure would appreciate it. And then finally, if we could get an understanding do any of the virtual schools do any type of sharing of assets? Is that sharing of assets done through curriculum, professional development, any type of pacing guide, anything in terms of learning supplements, anything that we see that there's a leverage of money that's being spent in one area being levered over to another area?
So Chairman, you tell me in the convenience of time, I can already answer questions 1 and 2 for you if you'd like that, or if you'd rather I just provide for you a written response that includes all 4 questions. I'm happy to do whichever.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do a written response only because
sir.
I think we'll be able to get that to the committee of 7 more efficiently. And this way I'm not telling them, please go to the 10-minute mark of the video to get that answer. So if you don't mind, right there would be great, okay?
Yes, sir, absolutely indeed. Thank you for having me today.
Okay, I sure do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Next up, Mr. Potman.
Thank you for, can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me this afternoon. It's my pleasure to address the committee. I'm Jim Potvin, Executive Director of the Employees Retirement System of Georgia. We are responsible for not just the state employees retirement system, but a number of other pension systems, including the public school employees retirement system, the Georgia Military Pension Fund. Incidentally, those are the 2 programs for which we request state appropriations each year. Those are in section 25, items 25.2 and 25.3, we request actuarial contributions from the state each year. We also are responsible for the legislative and judicial retirement systems, 2 legacy life insurance programs that are now closed to new employees, and a defined contribution plan, which is a savings program for part-time and seasonal state employees. Together, our operations around those areas make up the system administration, number 25.4 item, and is almost entirely funded out of trust fund assets. So the employer contributions that are submitted to us pay for our administrative expenses as well. Finally, we're responsible for the Peach State Reserve's 401k and 457 plans. That is the deferred compensation item. That is also funded out of the assets of its fund, self-funded by the plan through forfeitures and administrative fees. The employees retirement system has 3 tiers. The current one is known as the GSEPS tier. That's the hybrid defined benefit or pension and the 401k plan working together. So Peach State Reserves and ERS work together to provide a retirement benefit for those people who are the folks who have been hired since January 1st of 2009. As far as the finances of the pension systems is concerned, we're having a very good year investment-wise this year. Fiscal year to date investment return is around 22% versus our target of 7.3. So if we can hold on to that, it will be a nice number to book for the year. Our most recent actuarial evaluation doesn't include that number. So I would expect that our 21 valuation would show some of the impact of that. But as of right now, we're about 76% funded in the ERS plan. That has been slowly coming up over the past several years as we work to pay off our unfunded liability. Our contribution rates, while relatively high for us on a historical basis, have been steady for a number of years, and we expect that to continue for at least the next couple of years. All told, we manage about $19 billion or so in assets. It says 16.7 on the snapshot handout that I provided, but it's up to about 19 billion at this point. 16 billion or so of that is ERS. We pay about $1.5 billion per year in retirement benefits at an average of about $2,206 per month to our individuals, our retirees. That number has been going down over time as our newer retirees tend to retire with lower pension benefits. The successive tiers in the plan have provided lower pension side benefits than their prior ones. All told, our investment mix is pretty standard allocation of about 70% stocks, 30% bonds. Of the equity part of the portfolio, about 2.5% of that is private equity. That's the alternative investments that I know some folks are interested in. And they have been performing on the whole, not so much this year, but on the whole, been performing about as well as our public equity portfolio. This year, the public equity side is doing so well that it's hard for anything to keep up with that right now. We have about 56,000 active ERS members at this point, and about 54,000 retirees. So I'm updating from the numbers that we've presented in the past. On the 401k side, the GSEPS tier is a marked departure from the way we've handled retirement for our employees in the past. We require now them to manage a 401k account, which they've never had to do before in the past. One of our key metrics is making sure that they're at least saving, that they're participating in the plan, number one, and number two, that they're at least saving enough to get the full employer match. We've been able to do very well in both of those metrics. About 93% of our membership is participating. That's relatively high in the industry. And about 77% now are saving at the full match rate. So we're pretty pleased, and those numbers have been coming up over time. Happy to answer any questions.
No questions right now, except I do have two quick. I'm just really curious. Your participation rate's really high. We have a hard time in the tech industry getting that participation, even though we're offering the type of matching. Did you guys do any type of program to kind of encourage folks to do that?
So we have automatic enrollment. It's not mandatory on the 401k side, but we do default people in. As you know, obviously some people will default out. We have really bolstered our communications program over the past few years. So I think we've gotten a little bit of a boost from that. We also have been partnering with the flexible benefits program for a number of years to be included in their open enrollment menu. And we get significant positive impact from that. About 4,000 or 5,000 people a year increase their contributions through that each year as well. So that's been very helpful.
That's great news. I'd love to hear that. And last but not least, you mentioned the retirees. The TRS had a pretty interesting stat. 88% of their retirees still live in the state of Georgia. Do you happen to know, just out of curiosity, are you about the same?
We're about the same.
About the same.
88 to 90%.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Okay. We're going to move on to Mr. Arthur, and I believe he is virtual. Is that correct? Okay, great. Mr.
Yes,
Arthur,
sir.
the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you all for providing the virtual link for us today. It's been an interesting year in the Professional Standards Commission. If you don't know what we do, we certify all teachers in the state and leaders in the state of Georgia. And right now there are over 314,000 of number of individuals with an active Professional Standards Commission credential. We also handle the ethics cases that come to us from the systems in the state of Georgia. And we also work with all the ed preparation programs in the state of Georgia. We have to approve their programs, and we work with them daily, and we also evaluate how they're doing. When COVID hit, we had to make some changes fairly quickly. Testing sites, of course, closed down. And so we had those issues in getting certification in time. And so we issued a number of COVID flexibility measures and waivers to ensure that our schools would be staffed. We extended most certificates for an additional year to give educators more time to complete requirements. And at the same time, we made a number of changes to streamline and expedite and enhance our processes. For example, we streamlined our program endorsement approval process. We cutting a 6-month process down to 2 days. What that has done is we've added 30 new endorsement programs have been approved. 9 of those are in online teaching and 7 are in dyslexia. And when you combine those programs, we now have a total of 12 dyslexia endorsement programs and 21 online teaching endorsement programs across the state that are available to Georgia educators. And to increase the number of educators in the pipeline, we removed 2 assessment requirements, and we cut the cost of becoming a certified teacher by almost half by doing that. We also worked hard on our automation efforts, and right now, for instance, it's possible to renew a certificate in 1.6 seconds, and it takes no one on our side to do that, and we are continually working to improve our automation. and it's underway across wherever it's feasible. To enhance our customer service, we're currently revamping our website from top to bottom to make it easier. And like all agencies, we're also engaged in the ongoing battle to address the changing security landscape. And we do appreciate GTA's cybersecurity training and the tools that they've offered, but that is something that with the information that we have that we're continually working on. We're also very proactive in identifying and meeting the needs among our customers. We're in the midst of releasing a webcast series. It's available on demand. It addresses the needs and enhance awareness of all the Professional Standards Commission services and policies. We have launched 11 videos to improve awareness and understanding of the Georgia Code of Ethics for educators. And we've intensified our virtual professional learning and technical assistant efforts. Social media poses such a high risk for educators. We've administered surveys to system HR directors regarding their policies and practices, and we are providing assistance and resources to help systems create or strengthen policies to prevent those missteps that we've seen. In the fall, we launched a public dashboard featuring our preparation programs, effectiveness measures. You can find them on our website. And the purpose of this dashboard is to provide data to program providers and faculty to inform improvement, hold them accountable, and to be transparent to the public regarding the quality of teachers produced by each provider. You can go online, you can look up any college, public college in the state of Georgia and private, and you can see how they're doing, how their graduates are doing, and how their programs are doing. And of course, that's one area that we work with the governor's office to help write the teacher pipeline and add in reading and what we needed to do there. So that has been very important. We couldn't do anything without the partnership and the trust that we have across the state, working with the governor's office, Department of Education, GOSA, the university system, the school systems, program providers, RESAs, and professional organizations. Every rule that we have, we work with them so that we can create the best rules and policies in the state of Georgia as we work on the pipeline and to keep our teachers certified and working. Some numbers, we have 51 educator preparation program approval reviews that we've done. We've completed 91,415 certification cases, and we've received over 1,700 ethics complaints, and we've reached almost 6,600 people through presentations and training sessions. So it's been a busy year for us. We also work very hard with our veterans and their spouses. We have had a grant that is called the Troops to Teachers, and that grant has been very successful. We are in our third year, and we found out last Friday that the federal government is stopping that program as of May 15th. The money will quit. They are not paying any salaries. We have talked to the governor's office. It is the one program that reaches out to veterans and their spouses, and we have 2 people hired that work with the military bases and go out and pull them in and walk them through the process of what it takes when they retire to become a teacher. And that has been very successful. And we don't know why the federal government is stopping it in midstream, but that is what's happened. That program cost around $200,000 to run. And we will be asking for that money to be put into next fiscal year's budget to continue that process. There are 32 school systems in the state that have hired military personnel. And of course, Georgia ranks very high with the number of military personnel that we have across the state. And so I want you to keep that in mind. A few trends before I finish up. We see more teachers than usual leaving the profession in the middle of the year, this year. We didn't see the numbers last spring. and last summer. They held on, but we have had more than ever leave in the middle of the year. And we're seeing more long-term subs than we have ever seen before. And so at no other time is it more important to make sure that that pipeline is filled with certified teachers who have experience in the fields where they teach. In closing, everything we do, we want to make a positive impact on K through 12 learning. And I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. We don't have any questions in the room. Anything from Chairman Nix? We don't have anything from Chairman Nix. I have a quick question, and I get to ask this because of all the things that Chairman Dickey has mentored me on, this is one that I forgot to ask him. So that's on me. So I get to be the new guy asking the question. When we think about that pipeline and we think about bringing the students through the university pipeline and then into our school districts, who, or maybe it's a conglomeration of entities that create, I'll say, the curriculum and in a sense, the standards that we're expecting a new teacher to have coming into his or her first year of teaching. Can you tell me who's responsible for that, or what entities together are responsible for that?
It takes, we work with the university systems. We work with K through 12 teachers. We work with the governor's office looking at the curriculum, and there are certain standards that they have to meet and that we make sure that they're teaching, and we look at those sites and work with them on improving areas that are weak. We hold them accountable with our PPEMs. And so it takes a large group. It isn't just one group that makes that decision. It isn't just the university system alone that makes that decision. Okay. We do work with them, but it's also looking at how those teachers do in their first couple of years out teaching. And we look at the data that is out there to see how those young teachers did, how their students did in areas that we feel like need help. And of course, the university system's great to work with that, but things are changing all the time in the curricula out there. People don't see it, but there's a lot of things changing and moving, and dyslexia. You never heard about dyslexia 5 years ago, not 3 years ago, not to the extent. And that's something that we have seen high school students have trouble with. So we've definitely, and the university system has ramped up teaching of dyslexia and reading.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. I want to recognize Chairman Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Matt. During your presentation, you mentioned, and I didn't catch all of it, streamlining some certifications from like months down to days. Could you
Yes.
expand on that a little bit and the need for it?
Yeah, what we saw, we had some program endorsement programs. There are a lot across the state that RESAs teach, individual systems teach also. The university system even teaches some. And when I got there last year, Mr. Chairman, it was taking 6 months to approve those processes. And we changed that where now we work very closely with the university system. We look at them, but we've streamlined that process. It takes 2 days now to go through that. And it's entities that have been teaching these endorsement programs. They know how to teach them. They know what to do. But it was taking us 6 months to get through, and we've changed that tremendously. And just cutting out stuff, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chairman Dickey. That's impressive, Mr. Arthur. I appreciate your time. I'd love to be able to get with you at another time just around the modalities, just from a standpoint of not just the standards, but also making sure that our teachers are up to speed on hybrid and virtual, just because we got caught, I think all of us would agree, with probably that modality not being flexed as much as it probably should have been. And now we know what occurs, and we probably want to kind of be Boy Scouts in this case, always prepared.
Absolutely. And we've added a lot of endorsements with online teaching and working with the university system, but it's been this year.
Yeah.
And it's something we don't want to get caught again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Arthur. We sure do
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you.
Yep. I think it's great to be the anchor leg, in my opinion. But the anchor leg now, Ms. Hawkins, the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me. You know, this is a subject that we really need to talk about more, the teacher pipeline. I really appreciate your having me here today. I did go over our programs on FY21 budget. I'm happy and prepared to do that today if you want. But I'm following up from Matt's presentation. Let me just say that we're working very closely with Matt, with USG, with DOE to prepare teachers beyond the College of Ed. And so our School Leadership Academy, we've added new teacher induction and a teacher leader cohort. We've trained over 700 teachers in the last year and a half. And, you know, it's needed because surveys from Page and others nationally show that teachers leave because they don't feel like they have the mentorship and the induction in the first 3 years. And so it's, you know, I'm not a classroom teacher. Some of you are in the room, and you know that it's a very lonely feeling being in a classroom without the tools. So anyway, I also want to thank you for working with OPB and the Senate. We, in FY21 for Georgia Awards, the $900,000 for our contract was much needed, and we appreciate that. We also appreciate the $68,000 for the Governor's Honors Program. As I mentioned, we have a steering committee that has been raising money since November, and they think they're going to have about $25,000 by the end of this month. And so we have a gap of about $57,000, but we're working with the manager of the program to make sure that as many kids as can attend. The students in the Governor's Honors Program will be notified in April. So just be aware of that in your own hometowns. Forsyth always has a good many finalists, so something to look forward to. The only increase in our budget is with the TRS. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you. It doesn't look like, it does
I
not look
stand
like
between you and dinner.
Oh,
George, are you planning on having the Governor's Honors Program this coming
Yes.
year? I mean, I know things can change, but
Absolutely. So last year, kind of like you said, the Boy Scout, we were not ready. And, you know, in 57 years, we've never canceled. However, the safety factor was just too great. This year, we've been planning for a year. It's held at Berry College. The Berry College instructors have been prepared through the year working with their college kids. And so there are 3 versions that we have in mind, in person, hybrid, or totally virtually. Right now, you know, knock on wood with the variant, but we're planning on in person with a virtual backup.
Ms. Hawkins, thanks. I know the 7A state track championship was moved out of Barry. That was expected to be in May. And because that's something that clearly we can't do hybrid or virtual. That's just a physical component.
That's right.
So glad to hear that you're able to continue that partnership with Barry and be able to offer the 3 modalities. Right, there's terrific.
It's been a really good year in planning. It was so disappointing. I mean, that was one of the hardest decisions we've ever had to make, or I've ever had to make, because, you know, these kids, 660 finalists who have planned on this for years, and the disappointment was just really hard.
Yeah, understood.
Oh, one other thing though, we're planning for the students, there are about 75 who are rising, who were juniors last year, now seniors. We're planning a day at the Capitol for them virtually. The governor has agreed to speak with them, and we're getting representatives and senators from their home district to be a part of that. So if you're asked, please try to make room for it.
I
It's
think I
just
can
one thing
speak
that we
for
can do.
the chairman, and I would be happy to do so.
Great,
Okay.
great.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you, Ms.
guys.
Hawkins. Thank you.
Mhm.
We're going to go ahead, and I apologize. We are going to have to keep public comment to just about 12 minutes. We have 3 people signed up, so I'm just going to go in the order that you signed up. So Miss Claire Cox. Oh, she's virtual. I apologize. You ready to go? All right. Ms. Cox.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Jones, for allowing me to bring my comments virtually from Macon. I'm here today as one of the leaders of Georgia Stomp, a coalition of 22 organizations representing 40,000 Georgians for the purpose of addressing the issues of menstrual equity and period poverty elimination in our state. We're here asking that you increase the FY22 Feminine Hygiene Grant allocation for the Department of Education from its current level of $720,000 to $1.5 million. With acknowledgement to the role that Speaker Pro Tem Jones had in its establishment, this appropriation was first added to the FY20 budget in the amount of $1 million, but was reduced before it ever went into effect. Our coalition has worked alongside the Department of Education and with school nurses to see that the funds in this grant get to those who need them and that best practices for distribution are implemented. In the last 2 years, we faced challenges that included lack of awareness among nurses in Georgia's 180 plus school districts regarding the new category of funding, cuts to the appropriation in the midst of distribution, making communication difficult and unclear, and then of course, changes in distribution methods due to remote and hybrid learning during the pandemic. To address these and to receive information directly from schools, we've conducted 2 surveys of school nurses. The first in January of 2020 revealed that 40% of nurses were unaware of the funding. Upon receipt of that information just prior to the pandemic, Georgia Stomp co-hosted a webinar for school nurses in conjunction with the Department of Education and with the Georgia Association of School Nurses to clarify the existence of the funds, their purpose, what could be purchased with the monies, and best practices for distribution. It was well attended, and our appreciation is extended to Matt Cardoza at the Department of Education for all he did to make that webinar possible. As with many new appropriations, when the line item was added, the level of need was unclear. The original intention was to let usage of the money determine the proper level. COVID has hindered our ability to understand the exact need, but we have 2 relevant pieces of information from the second survey of school nurses. When asked, did the money your school received cover your students' need? For the $960,000 FY20 budget allocation, only 58.5% said that it met their school needs. At the $300,000 level, or the FY21 budget allocation, that answer was only 43% of the needs of schools received enough money. From this, we know that the current level of $720,000 is not enough, nor was the original $1 million level, and thus we asked this committee to consider increasing this funding to $1.5 million. From the survey and also from many personal conversations, we know that when money is not provided by the state, these products are often paid for by school nurses and other staff out of their own pockets. This appropriation is needed to ensure that young women are in class and performing at their potential. As one school nurse said, students do not use my products for emergencies only. For some of my students, my office is the only way they have access to products. Or as the 2020 National School Superintendent of the Year, Dr. Curtis Jones of Bibb County said regarding providing menstrual products in schools, the best way for students to be successful is to be in school. And one of my jobs is to get all the barriers out of the way. Menstruators don't have to stay home. We have support for you. That's the end of his quote. I conclude today by asking you as a committee to please make what Dr. Jones said true for every young woman in every school district in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Any questions? We don't have any questions from you. That was very complete, so we sure do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
virtual again? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and have Teach for America come up, please.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Khadija Abdullah, and my colleague Natri Jones with Teach for America are joining. I am the executive director for Teach for America Metro Atlanta, and we just wanted to say, one, just thank you and legislature for your continued support of Teach for America. Teach for America, our vision as an organization is one day all children in this nation will have the opportunity to attain excellent education. And for nearly 20 years or over 20 years, we've actually been delivering on that. Across the Metro Atlanta community. And we've actually recruited over the past 20 years, nearly 15,000 educators to our communities. Our members, of course, represent the backgrounds of our students with this year, over 75% of those, 75% of our teachers actually identifying as people of color, 60% are Pell Grant recipients, and 20% of them are actually in their first or first in their family to graduate from college. Our teacher breakdown, we place teachers across the K-12 area, with a quarter of our teachers being special educators and a third of our teachers being STEM. And so we are really focused on placing our teachers in high need positions across our communities. And we place across a number of districts with a total of about 65 schools across our communities that we place teachers. Want to name just that, as I've shared previously, some of our work is we've been closing the achievement gap or the academic gap for our students over these 20 years, with even prior to COVID seeing over a year plus of academic progress for our students each year, which of course is meaningful, just given that many of the students were in the schools that we teach across Metro Atlanta. Many of our students are actually sometimes 2 or 3 years behind. And so closing that gap is something that's really important to us. And so we have, as an organization, really been instrumental in actually leveraging some best practices. And this year really allowed us to leverage some of those best practices really quickly. Like many of you all, we found ourselves prepping to close out the school year last year, and then COVID happened. And so we went from all the different things we were doing to really thinking differently about how we were going to continue to bring in the next group of teachers that our school districts have told us that they desired, while also trying to train them really quickly in a virtual environment. And so last year we were able, with the support of our national organization, to bring in 90 brand new teachers to the Metro Atlanta community, and actually get those folks into classrooms and train them virtually this summer, and then set them up to be able to teach and lead throughout the school year. Something that we feel very proud about as an environment that has been incredibly difficult, not just on our students, but also, as you all know, on our educators, is that we had about 94% of our folks who have retained and who we've been able to retain in this incredible year, who said, I'm here, I'm ready to teach, I'm ready to lead, and they are doing just that for their students. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that with you all. And so we've pivoted in a lot of different ways, in addition to digitizing our teacher training, our coaching staff that Natri Jones leads, has really just redesigned our systems. We've had to purchase some different softwares that have enabled us to accelerate our work, and actually even really double down on our social and emotional learning efforts, given that there's lots of research in some of our partnership with the Yale Center for Education, Emotional Intelligence actually told us that when teachers feel whole, they are less likely to burn out and more likely to actually do really positive things with their students. And so those are a few of the things that we've been doing across Teach for America over this past year. And we recognize that the learning loss for our students this year, particularly students in low-income communities, based on the Georgia Partnership for Excellence in Education's top 10 issues that they released recently, named that on average, our students from this year alone are going to lose about 12.4 months of learning. And so something that was really big for us is focusing on closing the learning loss gap. And so we have been really engaging our teachers to make sure that they are using data-driven instruction based on things that their schools and their school districts are doing to drive their impact. And this summer in particular, we are actually going to continue our virtual training because we recognize that our teachers and students across all of the counties that we place in will continue to probably oscillate between this virtual and the in-person. And so we're actually going to be doing a bit of a hybrid model this summer to ensure our teachers are actually ready to do that. And so that's just wanted to name that that's really important to us, is because we recognize I think this moment matters a lot for us and how we land this, and this is a huge opportunity. And so we are committed to actually doing this in Metro Atlanta and making sure that we're able to, because we're so nimble as an organization, that we're able to show up for our students. And so I'll pause there Well, just saying that we wanted to thank you all for your continued support of Teach for America, and ask, of course, that you all renew our appropriation of $681,000 that will enable us to continue to recruit and train what we see as our next generation of teachers and leaders across our communities. So thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. We don't have any questions, except I will affirm what you said. I don't know if it's a learning gap or if it's a learning canyon. And it gets bigger just about every hour of the day. I think this is a national tragedy. And this tragedy is going to live with us for decades. And people are going to look back and they're going to talk about what happened. Where did we make it where the one thing that can lift people out of their current, where they're at, lift is education. And what did we do or what didn't we do? So I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I do appreciate your passion because I share it. I may not sound like it right now because I've been here for 11 hours and my head's spinning, but I absolutely share it. So thank you so much. And let's together find a way to solve that canyon, because it's a canyon. I think you're being nice calling it a gap. So let's solve the canyon together, okay?
Brandon, I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Ray, I'm going to make you a deal, if that's okay. I have a 5 o'clock back in my office that I cannot be late to. If I was to give you an audience with the committee when we're sitting down doing a working session next week, would you take that? Yeah, exactly. If I were you, don't sell past the close. I sure do apologize. Unless I hear anything else, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. Thank you so much.